Hey everybody, Davey here from Daveys World Fishing. Today I'm going to talk about fishing vertical jigs, slow pitch jigs for spotted bay bass. Stay tuned. Now, one of my additional favorite ways and one of the most effective ways I know to catch spotted bay bass is fishing vertically along the pilings. These are boat dock pilings that you find in and around most all Southern California harbors. These are permanent structures that are at the end of these docks here, and these spotted bay bass like to really hunker down on them. And one of my favorite ways to do it is with that slow pitch jig. Now, I've been fishing these docks for close to 30 years in Newport Beach and Huntington Harbor and all these other areas. Swim baits, jig head with a swim bait tail, all that kind of stuff, very effective as well. But in the last, say, several years, when the vertical pitch and slow pitch jig really took off, that's really become one of my go-to techniques for catching spotties. Now, the gear I use is very simple as well. I happen to have the X series, the Okuma X series, 7.3 to 1 gear ratio. I love the X series for this particular technique because you're looking at 22 pounds of drag. You can really button down that drag and get those fish to turn their heads. Now, the rod I've got, this is a kind of a specialty rod, but this is the DTR Custom by Okuma. This is actually their top water rod of all things. It's the DTRC 701M-TW for top water. Now, what I like about it, it's got a really short butt section here, so I can maneuver this thing around me as I'm working these jigs. And it's a medium action. It's got a nice little action to it, so this thing can really load up and get those fish to bite. Now, spotted bay bass, you're going to pull a lot of hooks when you're fishing this particular technique, and you want a rod that can really load up and you can get those fish away from those. Now, you don't want to go completely buttoned down. You want those fish to be able to fight a little bit. So the way I have it set up here, I've got a 30-pound braid and I've got about a 3-foot section of 15-pound fluorocarbon. I like the fluorocarbon in this particular setting for the abrasion resistance. Now, around these pilings, they're loaded up with mussels, rocks, anything that'll want to cut you off. Braid will snap easily when it touches that stuff. But that fluorocarbon, you got just a bit more abrasion resistance. Now, this particular technique, it's not something you need to do any kind of casting to. You can do this with a spinning rod and spinning reel, or a bait cast rod, bait cast reel. Preferably, I like the bait cast setup, but if I'm fishing vertically with, say, a hookup bait, I like that spinning setup as actually more for that technique than I do here with the spinning setup for the hookup baits. For the vertical jigs, anything in that slow pitch realm, I like that bait cast setup. Now, the technique itself is simple. You want to have it set as freely as possible where you're not going to get a backlash, and all you're going to do is disengage and let that thing drop straight down. As soon as it gets to the bottom, apply your thumb, get it in gear, and then you're just going to start working that jig. Slow raises, slow falls. Slow raises, let it fall down. So when that thing is coming up, it's going to dart up, and then it's going to kind of erratically going to fall back down to the bottom. That thing looks like a wounded bait fish to these spotted bay bass, and that's when they're going to attack. You don't want to like pitch too far into these pilings. You want to be, as I mentioned, as vertical as possible. What happens is if you pitch in, this bait's going to dart its way down, and you're going to pull up, and it's going to keep kind of going back in the same direction. Now, if you're vertical, it's going to come up and it's going to dart right, it's going to fall, it's going to dart left, it's going to make lots of erratic movement. So I'm going to come right up to this one here. This is a 7-foot rod, so I can get fairly close. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to let that jig get right to it, and I'm going to let it get a nice straight fall. A lot of times you're going to hit seaweed and things on the way down, but you want to get that thing down here as quick as possible, and then you're just going to give it that nice slow jig. Rise, fall, rise, fall, rise, fall. It's really just that simple. Now, the amount of times you want to jig it, completely up to you. My personal opinion in most of these harbors is that every one of these pilings has some spotted bay bass on it. Might have one, might have several, might actually have none, but I think they've all got some. Whether they bite or not, totally different story. Now, working these pilings also is going to be dependent on your tide, water movement, etc. Sun, water movement, it's all going to come into play when you're working these spotted bay bass and these pilings. Now, right now I've got an outgoing tide. I'm in a cove here. The water's pushing back that way, so I'm working a piling ahead of me here. I'm going to work on this side of it. So here's the piling. I'm going to work on this side since the water is coming towards me. Now, that fish will sit right along that piling, and as it's swimming, it's just ambushing stuff stuff as it comes by. Bait fish, whatever kind of junk that falls off that piling that these fish want to eat. So I'm going to work that side of the piling. I'm going to get it right down below, let it fall down, then I'm going to work that side. Let it get to the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do 5, do 10, do 20, do whatever you feel like you want to do. Sometimes you're probably just going to do 1. Then I'm going to work the other side of that piling as well. Sometimes those fish are on the other side and they're doing the exact same thing. So I'm going to get it out there, a couple of jigs, then I'm going to move on to the next piling. When those fish are ready to bite, they're going to bite. So we'll move on to the next one. But that's all you're going to do. And a lot of times, this is very effective during the day, but I always say nighttime is the right time for slow pitching spotted bay bass, and it certainly is. You've probably seen some of my videos. Nighttime's always hard to catch, but that's a great time for doing this particular technique. But I'm just going to let it get down to the bottom, work its way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really, that's it. Once you get hooked up, you're just going to let that fish load up, let it run, let's pull some drag, get it away there. You don't want to pull that hook on that fish as well. Have a net next to you, have it ready to go so you can net that fish in. If you're comfortable, you can bounce it as well. But really, that's it for slow pitch fishing. You can see I got some weeds on there. You're going to snag up a lot. You're going to catch all kinds of crazy stuff. I caught an octopus last week. But it's just a great technique overall and something you should probably add to your arsenal. It takes a little bit getting used to. You are going to be in and around all these boats here. Boat owners, these homeowners don't like you to be too close to their boats. I'm sure they get guys that are casting and chipping their gel coat and everything else, and that's not what we want to do. As kayak anglers and as fishermen, we want to be as courteous as we can to all these homeowners and boat owners. That way they're not yelling at us. You've seen all the Karen videos. In fact, there's one right out here in Newport who will yell at you every time you get anywhere within 100 yards of her dock. Just avoid those people, but just be courteous. Everybody's nice. They come out and start yelling at you, just say have a nice day and move on to the next dock. There's plenty of docks out there. Anyway, that's it. That's my little rant. But that's slow pitch fishing. As you can see, that particular one has been beat up. All of the paint, all of the color is off that thing. But sometimes those are the best ones. That means they've got the best action and they absolutely get big. But I do appreciate y'all checking in. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below and subscribe to Daveys World Fishing in that right hand corner. See you out on the water.